too. Hey everybody, I'm here today with Dr. Christina Schramm. She's got a unique thing, a presentation that she shared with me that I thought was worth sharing with everybody. It's pretty cool because a lot of us that are fortunate enough to be able to do work from home are finding ourselves in different positions. And I personally am finding different tensions and things in my middle back that I didn't feel before. And it just so happens Dr. Schramm is a chiropractor and she has some awesome, helpful tips that I was really excited to hear back and wanted to share with everybody. So, Dr. Christina Schramm, first off, say who you are and how people can contact you, and then let's see your goodies.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we just have this presentation. It's pretty simple to follow, and I just thought I would put together kind of a few tips of things people can do at home. Most people are at home right now if you don't have an essential job that you have to go to. So I just thought these are things that anybody can implement. Actually, most of them are pretty inexpensive, or if you already have some, but it's important stuff. So I'm Dr. Christina Schramm, and my office is Schramm Family Chiropractic, located inside of LC Chiropractic, and we're in Eastlake in Seattle. And I have, at the beginning of my presentation, you'll see a couple more pieces of information and kind of where to follow along with me. But yeah, thanks for
Cool.
having me, Aaron.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to do it. So let's do it.
Yeah,
Can you share
get
your screen
started.
with us so we can see those cool
Yeah,
slides?
yep, I'll go ahead and share. We're going to go to this here. Share. Cool. Okay, so this is just the first slide. Working from home. Most people, if they're not already working from home, are working from home unexpectedly, and which means they're probably working on in some poor conditions, maybe on a laptop or maybe seated when they're normally used to standing. They're used to having a couple monitors that they work on, and now kind of crunch forward on a laptop. So this is titled Working from Home. There's some information in my office. Like I said, we're located in Eastlake on Fairview Avenue East. I do have a Facebook business page, Schramm Family Chiropractic, and I also have an Instagram, which is Schramm Chiro, and that's my phone number if you would like to get a hold of me.
Cool.
So I'll talk about some possible problems, just a few kind of bullet points that I wanted to form this presentation around. The first being wrist pain and elbow pain, and then eventually maybe pain. The second, low back pain, and then the third and kind of most obvious offender is neck pain. And that's what I think most people are coming in with right now, is just that transition to home really bothering their neck and their mid-back, and we'll kind of group that all together. So we'll talk about proper upper body position and what your upper body should be doing when you're at home. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you're looking straight ahead, that your monitor is straight in front of your face. It is okay that if your eyes do need to kind of settle down slightly, but for the most part, you want that monitor right in front of your face so that it doesn't have to dip down at all. The next thing you want to pay attention to is having relaxed shoulders. So lots of space between your shoulder and your ear. Just like a nice neutral position here. And then you can't see my elbows, but I want my elbow to be in a nice 90-degree angle. So those are actually nice and relaxed in their kind of comfortable position as well. And then the thing you want to pay attention to for your elbows and your wrists is actually to pretend like you're holding a basketball. What that looks like is that your arms are kind of twisted in like this. Kind of zoom in. The nap position, this, not like this, which is what the keyboard and the traditional mouse would do. You actually kind of want to just be nice and neutral, relaxed in the shoulders, relaxed in the elbows, relaxed in the wrist, and it looks like holding a basketball.
Cool.
So just one easy you can do is switch to ergonomic mouse. It seems like it wouldn't make that much difference, but it takes your wrist from that straightforward turned position, and it actually lets you be in that natural kind of holding the basketball shape. You can see those mouses are kind of tilted to the side. It makes a huge difference, believe it or not. We have ergonomic mouse is in our office, and when I am at home and I'm on my home computer, which I don't do a whole lot of work at home, but I do not have an ergonomic mouse, and I really feel the difference. It puts a lot of tension on your wrist, and then eventually you feel it in your elbow, and then if you're there for too long, I even start to feel it in the finger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super, and you can see there's really inexpensive options, all from Amazon. You can go anywhere though, but it's just an easy swap that you could pay $25 and just have like that easy kind of relaxation in your wrist.
Cool.
Another easy fix, and this would be maybe, in my opinion, secondary to the mouse swap, but this is a keyboard, an ergonomic keyboard, and there's two things you'll notice. One, that it's kind of rounded out like this, so that your arms can be in that, again, basketball holding state. And some of them are even raised in the middle, so that it even provides that further. But it's just an effort to create less tension on the wrist, less tension in the elbow, and taking you out of that kind of twisted flat that most keyboards are in. Well, all keyboards, if they come standard with your computer.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about proper lower body position. So this is just a drawing. The best place to be for low back and your legs is so that your knees are even with your hips or lower than your hips. So this first picture on the left demonstrates what a chair that would make your hips even with your knees, and that's okay. So that usually will help create that lumbar curve and tell your body to kind of turn on those lower muscles in your low back so that they get working and your back doesn't become as vulnerable at that point. I think even better is that middle option where your hips are actually raised above your knees. This actually forces you to have a lumbar curve or a low back curve, which we all have, or we all should have. And so it just kind of forces you to kind of sit upright on your sit bones and engage your low back so that it can protect you and you can kind of be more stable in the seated position. And then the worst option is when your knees are above your hips. So unfortunately, a lot of computer chairs are designed like this because it is very comfy, and actually a lot of chairs in general are designed like this. They know that this is comfortable for us. It actually goes way back to being in the fetal position where we kind of want to curl up. So your low back rounds and your knees come up, and what that does is not great for us as adults. So we really want to sit in a position that encourages us to have a low back, which we developed and have kept since we were very little. So those are my recommendations for sitting and ways to kind of combat that. Earlier we were talking, I had a question about the exercise balls or a yoga ball, and that is also a great option. You just still want to make sure that you're checking in with where your knees and your hips are, because sometimes those can be too deflated so that your hips are actually sinking lower than your knees. And so you do want it to be inflated so it's sitting you up and you're engaging your low back. Your brain is involved in keeping you there. That's really the best option.
Dr. Christina, why is it that those balls are good for you other than the position? Do they offer anything else? Because they seem like they seem a little reckless to me. I've seen some comedy routines with them, and you can really fly off those things.
Yeah. I always go back to how things are affecting your neurology and your brain. And when they've done a lot of studies on, just how even kids learn when they're slightly moving, like in those seats where there's a rounded bottom or they're in like a stool, and if you can have a little bit of movement, your brain is engaged in just a different way. Huh. So I think most of all, they increase productivity. Because you're kind of just gently moving back and forth. You can't really sit in one place on something that's filled with air. So I always go back to like, how is it interesting for the brain? But also then your brain has to actively keep those muscles engaged, because it's not going to let you just fall to one side, right? You're going to have to overcorrect. So when your brain is telling those muscles to kind of constantly overcorrect, then they're kind of like getting a little mild workout.
Interesting. I never thought of my posture having anything to do with my brain before, so that's interesting.
Oh yeah, your posture has everything to do with your brain.
Yeah.
That is interesting. So So this is another fix that's pretty simple. Now these are two options that are very different from each other. So let's first talk about the one on the left, which is a black cushion, and you can see that it kind of squishes in on both sides where the hips would sit in, and it actually rolls up on the sides, and I do not like that. I don't like that because it's going to roll the hips up like this and kind of squish them towards the pelvis, and that's not a comfortable place to sit in long term. Again, lots of seats are made like that on purpose because they think that it's comfortable, but it's just not sustainable long term. So what I do like is that one on the right called a tush cush.
And you have no stock in these, right? These are not your products?
No, I don't. And I don't even sell these in my office. I just recommend them all day.
Okay.
But I do like that one on the right because it is very firm, and you can see that it's actually angled. So it's got more cushion where the hips would sit and less cushion where the knees would be. So it's going to help put you in that position where you're going to have your engaged low back. And they do make car versions for these too, which are really helpful for people who have larger bucket seats in their car.
Oh. Okay.
When we're back to commuting. That's a good option.
Yeah.
So we'll just go through some examples. So this is an example of what not to do at home.
That's what I do every day.
Open your computer on a surface and using it. Laptops really weren't meant for a long-term.
What?
I know. They've just become so accessible and so inexpensive that now it's kind of just what everybody uses on a day-to-day basis. But they were really meant for, quick business trips, or if you needed to do something while you were on the plane, or if you couldn't be on your normal computer. But, and they've become smaller and smaller. So it's not a good thing to use long-term. But I know that most people are in that scenario right now. And sometimes people even work on those in their normal offices. So there are ways that you can combat that.
Yeah.
But if you see what his body is doing right now, so he's looking down, which puts a lot of strain on his neck, on his muscles, obviously, but on the structure of his spine in there, it kind of tilts everything forwards. And we know that your spine houses your spinal cord. And so you're just getting lots of tension going on right there. And it's not a good place to hang out. And then you'll notice that he is kind of reaching forward with his arms, that his elbow is not in 90 degrees. Over time, this just would be uncomfortable for him.
Mm-hmm.
So the next option is better. So you can see that the screen is now in front of his eyes, which I like. Means his neck is going to be a little happier. But his shoulders, you can see those are going to get angry because they're kind of hunched up like this. Eventually, his arms are going to be really tired because he's just holding them up there like this, right? It doesn't look comfortable at all because he's like arched up here.
It kind of reminds me of one of those motorcycles from the 70s. I think they called them ape hangers or something that they...
Yeah. But you can see that he just used stuff from around his house. He's got an Amazon box, another box, a book. This is a super easy fix. Just find a bunch of boxes. There's free one, post office. Like, just get anything you can to raise that or up. It's going to make a huge difference in the neck and the tension from your neck down to your shoulders. And now we'll go to this next picture. We can see what he kind of does to fix the shoulder problem.
Oh.
He has purchased an extra keyboard, and you can see his isn't ergonomic, and that's okay. This is a great fix because now his arms are nice and neutral. He does have that 90 degrees in his elbow. His shoulders are nice and relaxed. Lots of space between his shoulder and his ear. And even if he doesn't have that ergonomic keyboard, this is still just a much, much better option. And these you can get for very cheap anywhere. And then you'll see that he does switch it out for an ergonomic mouse that's to the right side of his right hand. And so when he does need to use his mouse, it's going to be more like this and have that curved effect to it. So this is my number one recommendation for anybody who's working on a laptop, whether it's now during these times where most people are at home, or if you're set up on a laptop permanently at home or at work. Gotta raise the monitor up, gotta get an extra keyboard. It's a super, super easy fix, and it will make a huge, huge difference.
I think you've convinced me. I'm doing absolutely everything he was doing in the first slide. Completely wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just those things long term are what's going to cause you pain.
Yeah.
Eventually, right now you said your mid back's feeling stiff. Well, eventually it's going to be really painful.
Hmm.
Eventually, it can cause some headaches, which when you start getting that kind of tension involved, it can cause lots of other things. It can cause you from sleeping well, or you can maybe be more stressed out than you need to be because your body's just kind of pulled forward and crunched forward,
Yeah.
and we've got to find a way to get out of that. Just as a society. But this is just one way you can do, and just do a little quick check-in at home. And the next slide is just the last one, and I'm happy to actually check into anyone's home workstation. We can make an appointment over FaceTime or a Zoom call, and to do that, just go ahead and shoot me an email. It's hi, like hi, at ChristinaSchrammDC.com, and it's on that last slide there. And I'm just happy to do this because I want to make sure that everybody's set up at home. I want to make sure that you're not causing any further pain or causing any further problems. What I find is that this is really problematic for people down the line, and I just want to stop anybody from doing that to themselves. So if you want to show me your workstation and have me check it out from afar, I'm happy to do that and make sure that you're set up properly.
I think I'm going to try to adjust my workstation first before I show it to you because clearly it's just sitting on the desk like that, like Kevin, I think you said his name was. So I'm gonna work on it. Actually, when we get off this call, I'm gonna work on improving mine.
Send me a picture.
Hey.
I'll check
Cool.
in on you.
All right, cool. That's awesome that you're willing to do that. And so anybody wants to can check out email Christina hi at ChristinaSchrammDC.com. And you have a Facebook page as well?
I do. It's under my business name. We can go back to the first page there, which is Schramm Family Chiropractic. It's just my last name, Family Chiropractic.
Oh, okay. I see. Schramm Family Chiropractic. Gotcha. And Instagram at Schramm Fam. I got to do the Instagram so people think I'm still young. At SchrammFamChiro.com. Or Chiro. Yeah, see, now I'm not young anymore. I blew that. Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate you going over that. I hope that's helpful for people. I know it's going to be helpful for me. So, got to do what we can, working from under different circumstances. Is there anything you can do about the homeschooling and having kids in the home while you're trying to work from home?
I know that is a whole other battle, and unfortunately, I'm not trained in that. But I can definitely sympathize.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. I'm sure you're doing great.
Yeah. I'm just teasing, but it is an adjustment for sure.
Yeah. That's a whole other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Schramm. I really appreciate it. For anybody who wants to get in contact with you, check out the Facebook or the Instagram. And I'm sure that these things are going to help my back, and I'm excited to try them out today.
Cool. Happy to help. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.